Hey guys, welcome back. For those of you that have been following my build so far, you guys know that I've been getting a flickering oil light, and I noticed that if I drive the car every day, it doesn't really come up, but if I let it sit for a little bit, it starts coming back again. So one of the most important things when monitoring your engine's health is the oil pressure. So I decided to get an oil pressure gauge because I think that's much better than a flickering oil light. I just don't know what is going on. So I reached out to Pro Sport Gauges, and they were kind enough to send me one of their premium stepper motor series. The light comes on as amber and white, so the Tiburon is gonna match this amber color, which is nice. So everything you see here is what came in the box. You got the gauge, and you have a gauge pod that goes on top of your dash like this. This is the hardware to mount the gauge onto the pod. This is the main power harness. This is the oil pressure sensor. This is the wires for the oil pressure sensor. And this is what's called a piggyback, where you plug one end into the gauges and you can piggyback the power from this gauge onto another gauge, which is nice to have. That way you don't have to keep tapping into other wires every time you get a new gauge. And then this here is called a oil filter sandwich plate. This goes in between the oil pan and the oil filter, and it gives you access to some of these holes, which you can put various sensors like oil temperature or oil pressure in my case. And then these are just bolts to cover up the ones that you're not using. Up here is what I got separately to make the install easier and to make it tidier. So first one is the A-pillar. I got the 2 gauges one because I'm planning to put AFR gauge in there in the future. This is for protecting the wires because some of the wires will be in the engine bay exposed to the weather. And then this is for the ground, and this is a PTFE thread seal. And then this is what's called a fuse tap or fuse tap. You find the appropriate fuse in the fuse box, you replace it with this, put the original fuse in here, and then the fuse for the gauges in there, and that kind of just gives you the power instead of having to splice and whatever. So this is just a much better, much cleaner way of doing it, so I thought I would get that. And it came with these fuses. So I'll have links to everything you see here in the description below. So I've never done this before, but it does come with instructions and they look pretty simple. There's plenty of tutorials online. So my hope is that I can make a very clear and easy to follow video. So let's get started. If you saw my last video where I did some quick at-home engine bay cleaning, SuperClean was a sponsor of that video. Well, they reached out to me again and wanted to do a small giveaway of their original formula and their aerosol can. All you have to do to be entered is to comment anything on this video and follow me on Instagram because that's the best way for me to reach out to you. Good luck, and let's get on with this video. So I'm gonna first start with wiring before I get down dirty into the oil pan and stuff. So according to the instructions right here, it says the red is the 12 volt constant power, black is ground, white is the 12 volt accessory power, and orange is the headlight switch dimmer. So here, looking at the diagram, I found that the tailgate is the constant, and then I found the cigarette lighter as the accessory. And for the dimmer, I'm gonna use this tail light left hand. I confirmed that that only powers on when I switch on the stock like that. So I'm gonna wire that real quick. Alright, so this is how I hooked it up. There's the 1, 2, and 3. That's for the 3 colored wires, and then for the black. For black, I had to use a wire crimp connection and then extra wire I had laying around, and I connected that to that bolt right there. And now we're left with just one connection for the gauges. So I'm gonna test it real quick. Man, that is loud. Alright, so right now it's in the accessory position, and I think it's blinking because it doesn't have any actual sensors connected. Right now it's white. If I turn the light on, it switches to orange, which is perfect. It matches the Tiburon gauges. Alright, so now I'm gonna go down under the car and wire up the sensor. before I put the sensor in, I'm gonna wrap it in this tape. Okay. Okay, should be good enough. Hello, so this is the future me, and when I put everything back together and started the car, it started leaking from all these screws, and I don't know why I didn't put the PTFE tape on, but you definitely need to do that. So I'm gonna loosen everything here and put the tape on and then put everything back together. Okay, so here's the sensor wire. Gonna plug it in right there. Okay, there we go. As far as putting the wire through into the cabin, I think the easiest way is to do it through inside this wheel well. I read that there's a place there I can do it. So I'm gonna undo this liner here and see what we can find. So I just confirmed that that one right there goes into the cabin. So now I have to find out a way to get the wire from the engine bay into this area and stick it in there. So my wire right now goes like under there, up here, through there, behind the, right next to the firewall. And I found that this hole right here is just perfect. And it goes through there. Go in. Okay, there we go. And that comes in, let me turn the flash on, through there. Where is it? Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, so that hole doesn't work. There's actually another hole inside of that hole, which is impossible to get the head into both of them. So I found this one right here, right there. That goes right onto the, right in front of the strut, which I'll show you in a minute. But it's covered by this grommet right here, and I just took that out. And that one is just the right size for this one to go through. There we go. So that wire is here, it's right here. It's gonna go inside the fender well, or the liner. And then it's gonna go in there through the cabin. So probably not gonna get it on camera, but. And I was able to get it from the bottom of the wheel well all the way up to here. So now it's long enough to be on the A-pillar. Okay, so I see this little space in there. I think that could work. So now it's a matter of fitting this on, but since this is a universal pod, it doesn't quite fit. It's almost, like, it's kind of close, but not really. So I saw this method online where you take a heat gun to this thing and kind of mold it like closer to each other. And so I'm gonna try that. And none of that worked. I just couldn't get it to mold in the way that I saw on the other YouTube videos. So I said, the heck with it, and I just installed it like this with the given gauge pod. And I just drilled holes because I know that eventually it'll get covered up. So this universal one, it's no good. And I got this one. This one is from Glow Shift. It's another gauge company, and this is made specifically for the Hyundai Tiburon, and it fits like a glove, just like that. So I'm gonna take that out and cover this up with this gauge pillar like that, and hopefully that'll look much better. Alright guys, so that worked out a lot better. So lesson learned again, never cheap out, just get the one that fits the car first, and we shouldn't have any problems. I actually didn't fasten this down with anything. It's just, this is enough to just keep it in place like that with the weather seal, and when I close the door, it's all good. So let's test this out finally. There we go. And I actually haven't started this car in like almost 3 weeks now. So let's see how it does. There we go. So on a cold start, the pressure is at about what, 60, 70, 80, 78, 79. So looks pretty normal to me. And this time it's not leaking, so that's a good sign. So the engine RPM is at about idle now, even though the engine's kind of cold, but the RPM is about idle, and we're at 30 or 40, 41. And when I rev it, goes up like that. So that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions or concerns about the install, feel free to ask in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.